The federal indictment against Donald Trump has officially been unsealed, charging him with 38 counts of federal crime, for which, if he's found guilty, he may spend the rest of his life in prison. Intrigued? Delighted? Then click that like and subscribe, and enjoy the video. Today's a fantastic Friday, isn't it? I mean, Fridays are generally speaking some of the best days of the week, but this Friday, for some inexplicable reason, is just truly phenomenal. I'm kidding, because the reason is not inexplicable. It's perfectly explicable, and that is the fact that yesterday, Donald Trump was indicted by the Department of Justice, specifically Special Counsel Jack Smith, for federal crimes. And today, this Friday, we were given the gift of the unsealed indictment. Now, this development is huge. It's historic. The idea that a former president has now been indicted at the state level, Alvin Bragg in New York, and now at the federal level. And he may be indicted again at the federal level when Jack Smith, concludes his investigation with respect to January 6th. And there's additional indictments potentially coming down the road in Fulton County, Georgia. So this, again, we're just at the beginning. But there's so much to this development that we're probably going to do multiple videos about it. So brace yourselves. But this video is dedicated to the charges themselves and the counts because the indictment was unsealed. And I want to begin with this video, this very short press conference, public statement by Jack Smith, who is the special prosecutor appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland to investigate two things: the retention of classified documents and national information, government information, and Donald Trump's involvement with January 6th. Those are both separate prongs of an investigation that are each under the purview of this man here, Jack Smith. This indictment concerns only the classified documents. So keep that in mind, all right? So let's hear it straight from Jack Smith.
Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with felony violations of our national security laws, as well as participating in a conspiracy to obstruct justice. This indictment was voted by a grand jury of citizens in the Southern District of Florida.
So I want to point this out real quick. That's a really good point. President Biden did not make this decision. In fact, there's no evidence that Biden was even aware of it before the decision was made, number one. Number two, Attorney General Garland did not make this decision. Number three, technically, Jack Smith himself didn't even make it. It was a jury, a grand jury of Donald Trump's peers, fellow constituents, fellow U.S. citizens in the Southern District of Florida. So it was fellow Floridians as well. They were presented with the evidence. These American people, these jurors, these regular American folks, were presented with the evidence by Jack Smith, and then they go, yeah, it seems like Trump should be charged. That's how this occurred. So any Republican or any conservative who tries to mislead you, saying, no, Biden's behind this, Garland's behind this, they're just weaponizing the DOJ, they're full of crap. Let's continue.
And I invite everyone to read it in full, to understand the scope and the gravity of the crimes charged. The men and women of the United States intelligence community and our armed forces dedicate their lives to protecting our nation and its people. Our laws that protect national defense information are critical for the safety and security of the United States, and they must be enforced. Violations of those laws put our country at risk. Adherence to the rule of law is a bedrock principle of the Department of Justice, and our nation's commitment to the rule of law sets an example for the world. We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone. Applying those laws, collecting facts, that's what determines the outcome of an investigation. Nothing more and nothing less. The prosecutors in my office are among the most talented and experienced in the Department of Justice.
So a point on that. The Department of Justice has, depending on how you calculate it, anywhere from like an 83% to like a 96 or 99% success rate in situations like these. If you include plea deals where, the person who is charged pleas out, they're not necessarily convicted, they agree to a plea agreement with the prosecutor, it's about 99% or 96%, something like that, upper 90s. And then if you don't count that, if you're excluding pleas, then it's about like 83, 85%. Still, that is a decisive and overwhelming majority, which just goes to show how screwed Trump is if what Jack Smith says is true, and I'm inclined to believe him, that he's got the big guns here, so to speak, that members of his staff are some of the most competent, experienced prosecutors in the Department of Justice. That's not good for Donald Trump, but that is good for America. Let's continue.
They have investigated this case hewing to the highest ethical standards and they will continue to do so as this case proceeds. It's very important for me to note that the defendants in this case must be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law. To that end, my office will seek a speedy trial in this matter, consistent with the public interest and the rights of the accused. We very much look forward to presenting our case to a jury of citizens in the Southern District of Florida. In conclusion, I would like to thank the dedicated public servants of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, with whom my office is conducting this investigation and who work tirelessly every day upholding the rule of law in our country. I'm deeply proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with them. Thank you very much.
All right, so that was Jack Smith, again, the special prosecutor appointed by Merrick Garland. And before he was doing this, he was actually on loan from the United States to The Hague, which is the body that prosecutes war crimes on behalf of the United Nations. And he was prosecuting war crimes in Kosovo. So this dude is no joke. He is the real deal. As a matter of fact, a very prominent Fox propagandist, Professor Jonathan Turley of Georgetown University, who's supposedly a constitutional expert, and he's trotted out by Fox and the Republican Party every damn time they need some sort of conservative scholar to opine about anything. Even he said recently, Jack Smith is no joke. He is somebody that Donald Trump should respect and fear. Now, in terms of the indictment, this is a photocopy of the 49-page indictment, unsealed indictment. And I would encourage you all to read it, as Jack Smith did, because it's relatively short when you compare it to other legal or political documents, and it lays it out pretty organically, the case. You know, it talks about who Donald Trump is, it sets the timeline up, it gives quotes, contextual information. And when I say quotes of like transcripts. So like at one point, and I think you've probably heard about this, I think we did a video about it, I can't remember, but there was reporting that Donald Trump said that there's a recording of Donald Trump admitting to one of his staffers that he is in possession of classified documents. And there's a transcript of it here. The recording itself will, of course, play out in trial. But he's showing off to a staffer a piece of national defense information, and he says, see, as president, I could have declassified it. I could have. He did not. He could have. Now I can't, you know, but this is still a secret. So he's admitting to a staffer that one of the documents that he has is indeed still classified. So that's the sort of information it presents. It also provides pictures, photos, but because this is a photocopy, the pictures are black and white. The color versions of the photos have been released to the public as well, so you see them here, boxes and boxes of documents. Some of them classified, others not, but all of them should not have been in Trump's possession. That's the other thing. Remember, classified or not, Donald Trump was not authorized to keep government documents away from the National Archives. So don't let people trip you up on the classified part. The other thing I want to point out before we get into the charges themselves, well, actually, let me do this real quick. On page 28, we get the list of charges and their counts. So for the charge of willful retention of national defense information, Donald Trump faces 31 counts. 31. That's a lot. And when they talk about national defense information, what they're talking about is described fairly early on. The classified documents Trump stored in his boxes included information regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both the United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack, and plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. The unauthorized disclosure of these classified documents could put at risk the national security of the U.S., foreign relations, the safety of the U.S. military, and human sources, and the continued viability of sensitive intelligence collection methods. Nuclear secrets, potential vulnerabilities, it's not good. So he's being charged with 31 counts of willful retention of those sorts of national information. Then he faces some other counts as well. Conspiracy to obstruct justice, involving him and his valet, I think it's Waltine Nauda. He was a military valet who worked for President Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and others as well, withholding a document or record, corruptly concealing a document or record, concealing a document in a federal investigation, a scheme to conceal, false statements and representations, and I think a second count of that as well. False statements and representation, and that's count 38. So, guys, this is not good for Donald Trump. I would say it is good for the United States because the fact of the matter is, if we believe in the ethic that nobody is above the law, obviously big asterisk, because in application, what we find is that if you're rich, you're privileged, you enjoy a different standard. But if the ethic is something to aspire to, then it is important that Donald Trump face consequences for his misconduct. Now, as Jack Smith said, he's entitled to the legal presumption of innocence, which he enjoys. He gets the right to a robust defense. And again, this case is taking place in Florida, not exactly a liberal bastion. That's Trump territory, right? So he has certain advantages here that we'll all probably cover in a different video as well, including, at the moment, a sympathetic judge, one that he appointed. So he's not, this isn't guaranteed to end in a conviction for Donald Trump. He may very well, be Teflon Don and emerge from this unscathed. But let's recap. 38 counts, pretty serious charges. The evidence is pretty overwhelming. The special prosecutor overseeing this is highly respected, highly reputable. And the Justice Department that has his back has between an 83 and 90-something, 95, 99% success rate. That's not good for Donald Trump, but that is good for the United States, and we will have more to discuss again as the story unfolds.